I built this super cool display case for my minis, and it almost broke me. I thought I was gonna knock this out in an afternoon. No! Let's rewind to Christmas of 2024. So I'm chilling on the couch in my Grinch jammies, still riding that holiday sugar high, when I spot a contest for 3D printed display stands. And I'm like, I could make something truly epic for my minis. Then I remembered the Technology Connections guy, and his YouTube background is just an IKEA Kallax with some TVs behind it. And I'm like, boom, that's it. I'll build a display case of a tablet slot so each mini can have its own dynamic background. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, quick 20-minute adventure in and out. So the first thing I needed was an app to display the pictures, and surprisingly, this was the easy part. I threw together a quick Flutter app called Backdrop Box. If you want to try making this nightmare yourself, I put it up on the App Store, Google Play, and the Fire Store. It's super simple. Pick a photo, crop it, double tap to clear, done. Side note, this glorious old Amazon ditty almost became a literal fire tablet during the cropping part. It got so hot, I genuinely thought I'd need a fire extinguisher, but if you're patient, it works. Mostly. So then it was on to the case, and I knew the first prototype was gonna fail, so I printed it with some old filament. It turned out beautifully awful. Also, fun fact, I underestimated the tablet slot and it got stuck. I almost had to Dremel my iPad out of the case, but fortunately, Mrs. Inator swooped in and worked it loose. And just like that, my plan to get a new iPad was foiled. On to attempt number 2. I was feeling cocky at this point, so I switched to the good filament, and the tablet did fit. Unfortunately, the charger still did not. Moving on to attempt number 3. Charger still didn't fit. At this point, I realized I'm hemorrhaging plastic, so I stopped being an idiot and started printing smaller test pieces. I also realized at this point that a right angle charging cable was going to fit the case a little bit better, so I hit up my boy Jeffy B, and I don't want to brag, but he had one on my doorstep the next day. We are tight like that. The next 2 prints were just for getting the charger hole right. The hole now looks comically large, but you know what? It works. Now at this point, I figured I was done. So I did the logical thing. I actually put some minis in it, and the good news is the backgrounds look amazing. The bad news is the minis look like hot garbage. The case blocked all the lights, so my beautiful display looked like a dark, shadowy abyss. I'm not gonna lie, I considered just gluing a cheap reading light to the top and calling it a day, but Mrs. Inator hit me with a, how hard could it be to add light? Just do it right. So I designed a clip-in light, and I've never designed a clip before, so of course that didn't work at all. The clips were too stiff and the hole was too small and it just wasn't gonna fit. So you'll also notice that right about this time, the prints start getting sparkly. This is because of the fancy new 3D Effect build plate I got. The upside, it made the front of the case look glorious. The downside, it was so much harder to print on. This totally would not be a massive problem for me later. Definitely not. No foreshadowing whatsoever. On the next attempt, I gave up on the clip and just did a peg. The holes for the peg still weren't big enough though, and they broke off in the case. At this point, I was over it. This was supposed to be an easy weekend build, and here I was, weeks in, questioning all of my life choices. I wanted to quit, and I almost did, but then spite kicked in. I wasn't gonna let this stupid case defeat me. I made another print. This one was gonna be the one. Nope. The top row looked great. The bottom row, dumpster fire. Not enough light was coming down to the bottom row, so the minis on the bottom row were all still in shadow. I played around with some ideas. One of them was to make the light comically large, and that looks stupid, so I caved and added a second light. By now, that fancy sparkly build plate was actively ruining my life. Prints failed, layers warped, some pieces had half sparkly, half layer line ugliness. I finally did get a good print, but while assembling it, I smeared super glue on the sparkly surface. That beautiful shimmering front, ruined. The print after that actually was perfect, well, mostly, and at this point, I was able to assemble it with only a minimum of melted plastic, and I was truly, finally happy. I took a deep breath of solder fumes and relaxed. It was finally over. Psych! You know that extra light? Well, it now blocks the view of part of the bottom row. And that sparkly surface, it looks weird as heck under those LEDs. I looked at this thing like it was not at all what I had in mind, and I was done. I sat down, put my head in my hands, and contemplated my entire existence. I thought about scrapping the project. I thought about faking enthusiasm for the video. I thought about starting a farm in Stardew Valley and pretending this never happened. My mind just kept racing, trying to figure out how to fix this thing. I went through so many options, and that's when it hit me. If I made the lights thinner, made the boxes smaller, and gave up on the sparkles, it might actually work. The next morning, I made the changes and sent them to the printer. This was going to be the one. No. I made the light walls too thin, and now the holes for the wires cut straight through the top. I didn't even let it finish printing. I just stopped at mid-print, screamed into the void, and made more changes. I don't even know what's real anymore. This might be my life's work at this point. On my tombstone, it's gonna say, "Here lies Makerinator. He made a display stand for minis he never painted." But I made the light walls thicker and hit print one more time, and oh my gosh, this one came out perfect. The print was great and the assembly went fine, minus one mishap with the hairdryer when I forgot to turn off the space heater. I am so glad I didn't quit. This thing looks amazing, but there is just one problem. You see, I have been so busy making a display case for my minis that I haven't actually painted minis in months. So for the big reveal, I needed some actually good minis. And that's where my friend Andy comes in. His Warhammer painting is insane. Check him out on Instagram. He's Muskie4489 over there, and he just does some incredible stuff. I wanted to feature more of his work, but he's a little too modest for that. Go give him a follow. You won't regret it. Honestly, I love this thing. I cannot tell you how much I love this thing. The journey sucked, but the result was incredible. If you want to make one for yourself, instructions are up on my blog. Just know this build is maybe not for the faint of heart. And now, at long last, the reveal! If you like this video, check out my last one where I build a machine that decides what my wife and I eat for dinner. You probably will enjoy it.